All right, hey everyone, we're back for part two, the 22nd episode. Mike and Bryce are still with us. We're going to stick talking about the Giants. Actually, we just got done talking about Saquon Barkley and how he'll rebound from his injury. He's off to a slow start this season. But Mike, how do you see his season unfolding? I know that offensive line's tough, but do you see Saquon, breaking out for some yards?
Yeah, I mean, I really hope so. If you had a gun to my head, I would say probably not with the offensive line. I mean, granted, he's going to break some runs, he's going to have some big plays, but is he going to get back to the consistent production that we saw when his rookie year and early on in his career? Because obviously the past 2 years it really hasn't been any good, and it shows that maybe obviously it's not a great idea to pick a running back at number 2 overall. I'd love to see him do well. I'm skeptical of it. I know he's going to have some good games. He's going to break some big runs that are going to make you say, wow, that's why you draft a guy number 2 overall when he's athletic and talented like that. But it all goes, and this is a theme of the pod, is it all comes back to the offensive line. They need to be able to create space, and they need to be able to push people around. And the Giants offensive line with the Dave Gettleman offensive line that he's constructed in the 4 or 5 years that he's been here, I don't see them capable of doing it. And it's sad because you're wasting a guy in his absolute prime. Saquon Barkley, obviously, he's off an injury, but you gotta have a semi-decent offensive line to make him go. He's gonna go, but he's not gonna go as much as he really can and what he's capable of.
Bryce, what do you see out of one of your favorite players? Do you see him having a big year or no?
I mean, to me, Saquon Barkley, no doubt whatsoever, is top 3 running back in the league. He's McCaffrey, Derrick Henry type player to me. I mean, he's right there. I just think it's the same thing. You look at those guys and they have decent offensive lines around them, and it's just like the Giants. It's crazy. You draft a guy number 2 overall, running back. Obviously, is not the position you usually take him with a top draft pick because they're very replaceable and you can get guys later in rounds. But Saquon was a generational talent. He was a freak prospect. We saw what he did in the combine. He was insane in what he did in college, but it just doesn't make any sense to me that you can't, in order for a running back to play well and to do well, you need to build around him. And they just continue not to improve that offensive line. I get they drafted Thomas early 2 years ago with a top 5 pick. He's not panning out, which is a miss. Obviously Nate Solder, we don't need to talk about him. Probably one of the worst signings in the league. Not trying to even chirp you. He's been absolutely terrible since he's been on the Giants. I get he was trying to improve it. It's missed. He needs to they need to make better signings. They need to do better in the draft. They just lost their center for the whole entire season. That's huge, obviously, to lose a starting player on your offensive line this early in the season. But I mean, I still see him having a decent year. I can't imagine if Saquon Barkley stays healthy the whole season, he doesn't rush for 1,000 yards, even with the slow start, plus the extra game. I mean, we all know how talented Saquon Barkley is. There's no doubt whatsoever. He's going to break off big runs. He's going to make big plays. And the only way the Giants can win the division is for Saquon Barkley to, be Saquon Barkley. And it's a shame. I mean, he's always a guy I root for, even though he plays for the Giants and I can't stand the Giants. I mean, he was my favorite college player of all time. I love Saquon Barkley. I know he can be a stud. They just need to improve that offensive line, but I do have faith he's going to rush for 1,000 yards this season. I don't know if he'll get in the end zone a ton, maybe only 8 times, which is still a decent amount, obviously, but you got to get him going. I mean, he could still catch passes. You could get him involved in any way. He is a freak athlete. I mean, we all know how he is. They just need to get him involved, and that's the only way they can win games. That is the only way the Giants can win games is to get him involved. Daniel Jones can't do all the running. They don't really have a second back. I know they got Booker, who I think has 1 catch so far this season and 0 rushing attempts, so yeah, they need to get him going. That's the only way the Giants can win.
Yeah, and I mean, they got to get the running game going to open up that pass game a little bit. Because, if Saquon can't get going, defenses aren't really going to worry about him. You know what I mean? So then they'll be able to pressure Daniel Jones more, and that's not going to turn out good for anybody. And the Giants just made a big sign with Kenny Golladay, and I feel like if you get Saquon, running the ball more often, let him get going first, that might open up some room for your wide receivers, Kenny Golladay, Sterling Shepard, Ingram, and help you out a little bit. Go ahead.
I saw, which was, you hate to see in week 2 this early, but you see Kenny Golladay and Daniel Jones getting into it pretty bad on the sideline.
I did see that
Thursday night, which was big. And I mean, and I said this before, probably the first or second episode, I'm always been really high on Kenny Golladay. I thought I couldn't stand that the Giants got him. I remember it was between another team and he chose the Giants. You got to get that guy involved. Obviously, Sterling Shepard's come out this season. I think he's right now the 9th best wide receiver, like stat-wise in the NFL, which you don't expect from a guy like Sterling Shepard, but he's come out. He's playing really well. I know, obviously, Darius Slayton had that huge drop, but I think he's a really solid player. Once you get that going, you got to get Kenny Golladay involved, though. You don't pay a guy $72 million to throw to him, 5 times a game. He's got to get 10+ targets a game. He's a big play guy. A red zone threat. You got to get him involved. And I think in order for Saquon Barkley to succeed and Kenny Golladay to succeed, they both Saquon needs to succeed for Kenny Golladay to succeed. And same thing goes for Kenny Golladay with Saquon. They just both need to play well to get that offense going. And, Daniel Jones needs to gain some confidence. There's no doubt whatsoever. He's a talented player, but he needs to get his confidence up.
Yeah. Now, Mike, I got to ask you a question because I know there was a lot of turmoil in the offseason with the Giants. A couple players retired. A couple players didn't, agree with Joe Judge and how he handled the team. And now, week 2, you already see Kenny Golladay and Daniel Jones not going at it, but, having a few words to say to each other on the sidelines. Like, what do you make of that? Do you think that there's a lot more going on in the locker room for the Giants, or do you think it's just miscommunication?
Right. So it's a good question. It's an interesting one. I believe I saw on Twitter, which is my Bible. Twitter is literally my Bible. I love that app. It's the best thing ever. I believe the altercation was actually between Kenny Golladay and Jason Garrett, which makes it a little bit better for Giants fans because then it's not your quarterback and your best receiver going at it. And all the Giants fans absolutely hate Jason Garrett's guts. So it kind of makes Kenny Golladay one of my guys. It's like, all right, well, he's just saying exactly what I want to say. And he's just saying it to his face. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely not good. I mean, sometimes it can be like constructive and they get it figured out, but this doesn't seem to be the case. Jason Garrett's a moron. I absolutely hate that guy. I can't believe that Joe Judge would even think to hire the Cowboys head coach as an offensive coordinator. It was a bonehead move. I mean, he's bad. He's just a bad offensive coordinator. He's a bad coach, and you can't. I'm sticking with it. He's awful, and it shows. He's not good. So yeah, we'll see. But I was concerned when it was because it did look like it on that video. It looked like it was Golladay and Daniel Jones going at it. But when you look in the very right hand corner, you can see Jason Garrett there. And I think Kenny Golladay actually might have came out and said, I was actually yelling at Jason Garrett. But allegedly they have it all squashed now. So, we'll see. But you're right, Bryce. They're going to have to throw to him. But it's tough. I mean, they used their first-round draft pick on Kadarius Toney, the Florida wide receiver. So now you got so many mouths to feed. I don't get me wrong, I think Kadarius Toney's a good player, but was he the move in the first round when you have so many other needs? I would say no. And it all stems back to Dave Gettleman. Dude, what are you doing? He's been here for 4 years. His one thing when he first got the job was we got to fix this offensive line. 4 years later, it is still atrocious. It is so bad. The guy's made so many absolute awful decisions. I'm not even going to bring about the Daniel Jones pick at whatever. I don't even know it was what draft pick he was, but it was way too high to pick Daniel Jones.
Yeah, they shocked the whole league when they picked him. I remember when it happened, nobody had him up that high. And David Gettleman came out and said, listen,
he's our guy.
He's our guy.
Right.
That's it. I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's a good point that you brought up.
No, I mean, it's just and Bryce was saying, you got to fix the offensive line. You got to, get it all together. The best way to fix the offensive line, and it might not happen throughout, it probably won't happen this year. I mean, you're just going to have to go with the offensive line you have, and it's not going to be great. You're going to have to make do with what you got. The best way to fix the offensive line long-term is to absolutely can Dave Gettleman, get him out of town. The guy stinks. Get me somebody with a football mind that can actually put together an offensive line and construct a good football team. But until they do that, the Giants aren't going anywhere, in my opinion. They might be able to win some games, make a run. Maybe I don't think they win the division like we were talking about earlier, but in terms of going where they need to be, 2007, 2011 types of teams, Dave Gettleman's not going to get them there.
I think another big thing, though, what shocks me with Dave Gettleman is I think, and I'm not a genius when I say this, but I think everyone could agree at all the drafts. When you guys took Thomas, everyone agreed that was a big, big reach. And Tristan Wirfs was the right pick. He was NFL ready. Obviously, we saw he turned out even better. And I'm not saying Thomas can't turn his career around. Obviously, it's early. He's looked pretty bad so far, I'm not going to lie. But that was another bonehead move, I thought. Like, Wirfs was ready. He was the right pick for a team that exactly needed what they needed, and they reached for another guy. It's a shame because they've just missed on so many consecutive picks, which I feel, because we're Eagles fans. If anyone knows about missing in the NFL draft, it's us. Yeah. But yeah, that's just the big thing. And I just think, a lot of panic moves like signing Nate Solder. I always bring that up, but I always thought that was a really bad signing. He was way out of his prime, and you guys paid him big time money. I
want to ask you guys this question real quick before we switch over to baseball or anything like that. Mike, you talked about David Gettleman just not making the right moves over the past couple of years. Giants bring in Joe Judge. It doesn't look like he's the answer at head coach. If the Giants, don't have a good season this year, say they don't even get close to winning the division, no more than 500, because they haven't been above 500, I think, in the last 5 years. Who do you see getting fired first? David Gettleman, and they give Joe Judge another year? Or do they fire them both? Do they fire Joe Judge and give Gettleman another shot? Like, what do you see happening if things don't go well this year for the Giants?
It's a great question. You have to get rid of Gettleman before you get rid of Judge, because Gettleman's the guy who hired him in the first place, right? So he's now so, and I don't know. You'd have to check me on who Dave Gettleman has hired. I believe he hired Pat Shurmur and Dave Gettleman. I don't believe he was responsible for Ben McAdoo, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But let's just go off of Shurmur and Judge. So bad. He's just so bad. So get rid of Gettleman. Maybe you give Judge another year. Maybe, he works it out, give a guy 3 years. I understand that. I'm fine with that. If Joe Judge sticks around for one more year, it won't be the worst thing in the world. I don't think he's as bad as Pat Shurmur, Ben McAdoo, but he's not great up to this point. But yeah, I think that the slam dunk answer to that question is get rid of Dave Gettleman, and maybe things will change. Bryce,
how about you? Do you see the Giants firing both? I know you're not a fan of Joe Judge at all.
I would fire. I want to bring up a third name. I would fire Jason Garrett in a heartbeat. He'd be the first guy to go off my list.
Really? I agree with that.
Wow. All right, that's a good one.
Because I know this sounds crazy, but I think Gettleman, yes, he's made some bad moves, but I think he's also made a couple of decent moves. Like, I always thought the Odell trade was one of the best trades the Giants ever made. You got rid of a head case for Peppers and a couple picks that ended up being Lawrence, who obviously he had made that mistake last game, but he looks like he's actually a solid player, and I thought that was a big trade. I still agree. I like the Daniel Jones move. I remember everyone was laughing and said they should have picked Dwayne Haskins. I always thought Dwayne Haskins wasn't going to be that good. I think Daniel Jones has a lot of talent. I think we see that. I mean, Daniel Jones would be 100% out of the league by now if he wasn't a decent quarterback. We've seen that he has talent. I just think it's the offensive line that's been really bad, but I see Joe Judge and Jason Garrett going before I see Gettleman going. I don't know the Giants owner, but I think Dave Gettleman's been able to convince him, because he's been there now for 5-6 years, something like that. I don't see him going anytime soon. I just think he's able to convince the owner that we hired the wrong coach again. And maybe you can go out and get a guy like Todd Bowles or Byron Leftwich from the Bucs. I think that would be huge. Those guys, to me, should have been head coaches already. And, Todd Bowles wasn't the worst head coach. You got to give him a little bit of credit. When you're the Jets head coach, it's bound to not work out well.
So Bryce, let me hop in here. So one of the phrases that just came out of your mouth was, "Hey, we hired the wrong coach again." Who's hiring the coach?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong whatsoever. And I really disagreed with the head coaching hire with him. You bring up like a special teams coach. It's not the move. But I just think Gettleman it's been so long. He's been with the organization. You know how, you don't really see GMs getting fired like you see NFL coaches getting fired. Like that's how I see it. I think they're going to get.
Bryce, it's good that we're talking about this right now. Like, Mike, you just brought up Bryce's phrase, like, we hired the wrong coach again. But a lot of people were saying that about the Eagles last year with Howie Roseman. Like, this is Howie's fourth head coach in his tenure with the Eagles. So at what point does it get to be too many coaches? You know what I'm saying? I know they had success with Doug Peterson for that year. They won the Super Bowl. But he's been there for Reed, Chip Kelly, Doug, and now Sirianni. like for Gettleman, how many more coaches, does he bring in before it's like the owner's like, listen, you got to get out of here. You got to go.
I think
if he doesn't make the playoffs this year, he's done. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
If he doesn't make the playoffs, it's over for Dave Gettleman in New York.
And I would have thought, Bryce, I love Doug Peterson. I thought he was a good head coach, and I thought he had a good control of that team. I don't know what happened between him and Wentz, the Eagles overall, but I would have much rather seen Jeffrey Lurie get rid of Howie Roseman and keep Doug Peterson around. I know that didn't happen, but
I'm the opposite. You know how I feel about Howie Roseman. I think he's a phenomenal GM. I do.
You think he's a phenomenal GM, but like you just got done talking about with the draft. I mean, he didn't draft.
He misses on draft picks. Don't get me wrong, but
okay. But Bill
Belichick,
his salary cap moves are just unbelievable.
With the salary cap, him being a salary cap guru, every GM, every statistical wizard, they all know how to maneuver around the salary cap. And
Howie Roseman's just my guy. Like I just I'm a big believer in him. I get he misses on some draft picks, but he's had a diamond in the rough here and there. Quez Watkins looks like a great player. He was a 6th-round pick. Like you're saying,
what are you going to give Quez Watkins the gold jacket after 2 weeks of playing?
Listen, also, granted, we got to wait to see how the Jalen Hurts experience works. Maybe he becomes one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Maybe he becomes one of the worst. You got to wait to see because obviously, if he hits on that draft pick, he's going to be here for a long time.
That's a very good point. I think a lot's riding on, you got to give it more than 1 year. Like what you were just talking about, Mike, with the Giants. If they don't make the playoffs this year, that's it. Start over. Let's.
The boat curse. The boat curse.
Oh, when they were partying on the boat before.
Yeah, I saw somebody pulled up. Their record is the worst in like the NFL since that
that picture.
Yeah, and only like one guy's on the team from that picture still.
Who wears jeans and Timbs on a boat? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Right before the playoff game, I remember that drama. Oh my god!
Somebody, I don't know if it was Colin Cowherd or whoever it was, they were talking about that the other day. It's funny you guys brought that up, but yeah, it's interesting. I could see that the Giants getting rid of Gettleman before Judge because Judge hasn't been there for that long. Same thing with the Eagles this year. You can't tell with 1 year. That's a small sample size. So Sirianni and Hurts, I think, are here for at least 2. Got to see how they work together, how the rest of the team, gels and how they build. It's going to be interesting to see how this season unfolds. I see the Cowboys, I think, player for player. Their defense is looking much better. I think Michael Parsons, he's ranked, Pro Football Focus just ranked him like the 6th best defensive player up in between the first 2 weeks or something like that. So
he actually took the spot of Lawrence this Sunday, and he played like unbelievable for playing a position that he doesn't play.
I know the Dallas Cowboys just brought in Dan Quinn, and he's got that defense looking a little bit better than last year. Their offense, I think, is the best offense in the division with how they're lined up. I know Gallup. Gallup just went down with that injury, but I see Dallas winning the division this year. Honestly. Right? Yeah. Let's. What'd you say?
I said I got the Eagles all the way.
Mike, you're rolling with Dallas, right?
Well, I mean, I'm biased. I'm going to stick with the Giants, but realistic.
Love it. I can't fake passion.
All right, let's switch over to 2 teams that, Yankees don't have a shot of winning their division. The Rays are just too good, and there's not enough games left to be played. But the Phillies, 3 games out of their division, big win last night. Mike, of these 2 teams that are closing in on these playoff berths, they got a chance. Which team do you see making the playoffs? Do you see them both making? Do you see none of them making it? One or the other? Who do you got?
Out of the 2, out of the Phillies and the Yankees, I think the Yankees absolutely are a better team, better chance of making the playoffs. I think what are the Phillies 3 games out right now against in terms of the Braves? I don't know how many head-to-head games they have left with Atlanta. I'd imagine maybe one more series.
They got 1 series. Yeah, they got 3 games left with Atlanta.
They got 1 series, literally right at the end.
Okay, so that's going to make for some pretty damn good baseball there. But out of the 2, the Yankees just because of what they're capable of. They have been very underachieving all year. As a diehard Yankee fan, they have pissed me off so much, and they're in the middle of pissing me off right now as they lose to the Texas Rangers with a chance to get back into the playoff picture here. But just Yankees pitching, I think they have better pitching than Philadelphia. That Philadelphia bullpen's a nightmare. Obviously, Ian Kennedy, who I've seen a little bit, has looked pretty good in the closing role for Philadelphia. But aside from him, I'm not impressed with that Philadelphia bullpen either. And it's not like the Yankees have a great bullpen either. They're pretty bad. And they're it's just gonna have to work with it. The Yankees just tied it up, so let's fucking go. On their favorite play of this whole year, their best offensive weapon has been the pass ball wild pitch where the runner comes in. So that's just how the Yankees roll. They're gonna have to get hot. I mean, we've seen them get hot this year. They won 13 in a row not too long ago. Ever since then, they've been very mediocre since that win streak. So they're very streaky. They're going to need to get hot. They have the pitching to do it. They have Garrett Cole. They have Corey Kluber. Luis Severino just came back for some bullpen help. Michael King is a good pitcher. So they have the pitching to do it. They have the lineup to do it. We know that. I mean, when they put their best lineup out there, it's one of the best lineups in baseball. It's a matter of staying healthy. It's a matter of pitching, and it's going to come down to that bullpen, which is very, very not sturdy at all. So going back to the original question, yeah, I'm taking the Yankees to make the playoffs over the Phillies out of who has the better odds. But just because I like Atlanta, I don't think Philadelphia. Well, I know Philadelphia wouldn't have a chance of making the playoffs if Ronald Acuna was still healthy. That guy would have been an absolute difference maker, and I have no idea how. I have no idea how the Braves are even in the division lead right now. I mean, they have a good team. I get it. They have a bunch of good guys, Freeman, Albies, and like Darno, Swanson, all those guys, Riley, Duvall. They have a good team. I think they get the job done. They end up closing out that division. But who knows? Bryce Harper is playing incredible. He's shown exactly why Phillies signed him for as much money as they did. People thought he was going to be a bust, but that guy is really making an argument for the NL MVP.
Bryce, how about you? Who do you got, reaching the playoffs? Do you see the Phillies, having their first postseason burst since 2011? Do you see the Yankees coming away?
It's time. It's been a decade. It's time. It's time for the Phillies to get back into the playoffs. I was at their last playoff game when I was 12 years old, and it's still shakes me to the core.
Well, I got to ask you. Listen, Monday night you were there at Citizens Bank Park, and they lost that one to the Orioles. I mean, that was pathetic. They had a big win last night with the walk-off by JT Realmuto.
They're tied right now 2-2 currently. McCutcheon just home.
No way. They tied it up?
Yeah, they tied 2-2.
Wow, that's a good – both teams now tied. That's big time. So you see both teams pulling away and making the playoffs?
I think both teams will make the playoffs. I think the Yankees, and especially the talent that they have, no doubt should be in the playoffs. I get their divisions really, really hard. But, man, I see them getting in. I think they made absolutely fantastic offseason or trade deadline moves. I think they made a lot. Everyone was kind of questioning the Gallo and the Rizzo moves, but I mean, they've looked great so far in Yankees uniforms from what I've seen. But it's like I said, it's all in the gut. There's no really because Harper says it's just in my gut. I know the Phillies are going to make the playoffs. It's their time. I think the Braves people forget, but the Braves were actually ranked the second best team by the MLB coming into the season. They've had an unbelievably disappointing season. Even before Acuna got injured, they were not playing to their expectations. It's all going to come down, obviously, to that 4-game series we got coming up with them. Whoever wins three of those games is going to the playoffs. And there's no doubt. I know they have the Diamondbacks right now, a 4-game series. I know they won last night, game 2 tonight, and they got 2 more, I'm pretty sure. Hopefully the Diamondbacks somehow, some way can win 2 of those games. That'd be huge. But it's a shame because the Phillies think the same thing. They should be sweeping teams like the Orioles, especially in this time when you need to win. They shouldn't. The game I went to, losing 2-0, that made me sick. I was I was down on them pretty bad. If you would have interviewed me that night, I was down on them really bad. Thank God there was an interviewer on the side after the stadium. I was down bad on them. But then last night, down to their last out, and JT comes up clutch. It's just the same thing. Right when they let you go, they pull you right back in. It's just the way the Phillies are.
That is why I'm so nervous. And I love our Phils. I'm still holding out. I think they're going to get in. I do think the Yankees are going to get in. That offensive firepower that they got, bringing in Rizzo and Gallo at the deadline, that was big. Bringing in those big lefty bats. I wish our lefty bats outside of Harper stepped up a little bit more. I know Brad Miller's had to fill in for Rhys Hoskins. Bryce, we were, not high on Rhys before the year started. We're missing him a little bit. I know Brad's had a couple of home runs a little bit, but we're missing Hoskins definitely.
We're missing him bad.
In the middle of that lineup. Didi has not, former Yankee Didi has not stepped up this year. And hopefully he can get hot for this final stretch because, we need him. We need that lefty bat.
Jim, we have a Duba Herrera. Relax.
Hey, look, Herrera's been good.
He's my guy. You know that.
Yeah, and for our center fielders, that was awful. I mean, you could have threw anybody out there, and they would have gotten a hit more than those three center fielders combined in the beginning of the year. Herrera stepping in, he's helped us.
How bad is it that our number 1 overall pick in 2016, Mickey Moniak, can't make the MLB over like guys like Travis Janikowski? Like we bring up guys like Travis Janikowski, Adam Hazley, and Mickey Moniak, 2 first-round picks, one being the number 1 overall pick in the draft, can't make an MLB roster. That is for a team that needs the position. Like we're in dire need for outfield. They can't even make the team. We got to
center field has not been the same since the Flying Hawaiian left. Shane Victorino, definitely miss him. Aaron Rowan was good for us for a couple years there.
We need to bring does Jason Orr still got some baseball left in him?
We only got 10 minutes left, so, I want to wrap up some things. I see the Phillies, and the Yankees both making the playoffs. Listen, these Phils, they have the Orioles tonight. They got to win this. Then they got the Pirates for a 3-game set, and then you go to Atlanta to play the Braves. 7 games left. You have to win 5. You have to win 5 of 7, I think, to put yourself in good position to come away with the division. Bryce Harper, in my opinion, is the NL MVP. I honestly don't really think it should be that much of an argument. Tatis is batting .280 right now. Harper's batting .315.
He's still the favorite by a decent amount too. Like
I think MLB.com. I don't know if you guys saw it differently. MLB.com had Bryce Harper as the favorite when they sent it out.
No, I'm talking about like betting. I just always like betting. They have Tatis like a decent sized favorite, like minus 225. I think I looked yesterday. I kind of just looked to see because usually DraftKings is pretty spot on when it comes to that. We all know how the betting world works. So that's like the big thing to me. If they think Tatis is going to win it, he's probably going to win it. But I don't see Harper not winning the MVP if they make the playoffs. I agree. Like, how could Harper not win the MVP? He was out for a month of the season and his stats are unbelievable.
Speaking of an MVP candidate, and we're switching over to the AL, Mike, this is going to come back to you. I got a pop-up trivia question for you. Don't mean to throw you on the spot or anything like that. With your Yankees.
Let's do it.
Shohei Ohtani is going to be the MVP in the AL. I mean, what he did this year was remarkable, both offensively and defensively with the pitching. It's just insane watching him play. Last night, he recorded his 45th home run. All right. And on the year, he's got 45 home runs and 20-plus stolen bases. Who was the last player to hit 45 home runs and steal 20 times in a season?
45 home runs and steal 20 bags in a season.
Pretty crazy statistic. Let me know if
that
you
is pretty crazy.
And Bryce, obviously, if you got
I know it. I think I might know it.
You know it over there?
I think
I have no idea. I couldn't even think.
Bryce, you got?
I'm going to guess Jose Canseco.
Alex Rodriguez was the last player to hit 40 home runs and have 20 stolen bases. I saw that today. SportsCenter posted it, or someone posted it. I'm like, wow, that is.
I didn't even know he stole bases.
Yeah, I don't take A-Rod for a bag swiper at all. Wow, that's
exactly. That's why I was so surprised. I wasn't surprised about the home runs. The 20 stolen bases. I mean, that's pretty good.
I know Canseco used to steal a ton of bases when he was on the steroids and stuff. He said he was faster than Ricky Anderson. Obviously, I mean, I don't know.
You're right. Yeah, no way.
But no, it was cool. It's a shame with the Angels. It would have been interesting to see, both Mike Trout and Ohtani to see what they could have done.
Plus Rendon.
And then, plus they signed Anthony Rendon to that big contract. They have him in the lineup. The Angels are another team, though, too, that they focus so much on offensive talent that they have forgot about their pitching. Their pitching is not that good.
They need pitching. They need it so bad.
Mike, that one year they signed C.J. Wilson. I don't know if you remember him from the Texas Rangers. They signed him to that huge deal along with Albert Pujols. Or was it along with Albert Pujols or Josh Hamilton? Somebody.
Josh Hamilton. I think
along
Hamilton.
Hamilton. It wasn't. Yeah. And, everyone thought like, all right, the Angels are coming now. And that just didn't pan out. Mike, that's actually a quick question. Bryce, do you know what I'm talking about? Sticking with the Angels, they signed a big-time guy, Albert Pujols. Ask your question to Mike that we talked about last week.
Oh, Mike, is Albert Pujols a first ballot Hall of Famer?
Unanimous first ballot. Unanimous.
Oh, unanimous.
He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, but is he a unanimous first ballot Hall of Famer?
Absolutely. In my mind.
I think so too, yeah.
He's getting every vote?
Well, now that I think about it, I mean, yeah, I would say yes. I would say yes, but I don't. Derek Jeter wasn't even unanimous. Somebody voted no against him.
Derek Jeter missed it by one. Rivera is the only player in MLB history to be unanimous.
So yeah, I take back my answer. I say there's going to be some writer, some guy with the vote out there who's going to say no, and there might be multiple of them. Because if Derek Jeter can't get in unanimously, then Albert Pujols doesn't stand a chance realistically.
I had like the same exact reaction as you, and my guy was if Ken Griffey Jr. doesn't get every vote. I get he didn't win a title, which is obviously huge, but I think everybody can agree Ken Griffey Jr. might be all around fielding, hitting, stealing, everything, might be the best baseball player, most talented wise. I mean, the fact that he didn't get in unanimous obviously is big. Derek Jeter, same way. He doesn't get in. It's like tough, but Albert Pujols to me, like if I'm voting, Albert Pujols is without a doubt.
Like when you like Brett, like we were talking about, like, can you talk like Mike? My big question is, when you're discussing should a player be in the MLB or not, can you tell the story of Major League Baseball without this player? So, can you talk about Major League Baseball without mentioning Albert Pujols? No, you can't. So obviously he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. But when it comes to unanimous, I think if you take those years with the Cardinals and just take that, he would be a unanimous first ballot. His tenure with the Angels, and now he's still hanging around with the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. Not that it's hurting his career, because I know he's trying to win a ring, but I think voters are going to look at that, writers are going to look at that and just say, not my vote. And I think that's going to hurt his stock.
Yep. I hear you. Yeah, you're right. I take back my original instinctive answer of yes, but I'm going to say not unanimous.
I asked my dad like the other night, I'm like, is Pujols a unanimous first ballot Hall of Famer? He said right off the top of his head, yes. And then I said, and he's like, wait, is Derek Jeter? I said no. And then he's like, oh, I changed my thing.
I think everyone has the same has the same reaction, because the Angel years are just, obviously he wasn't terrible, but when you're, he didn't live up to the hype, and that's tough. But I'm off the field, he was a good guy. It's just, I don't know, it's tough like not to put Albert Pujols in. Like first time, like I'm voting him, man.
We'll ask one more. We got 3 minutes left. I want to ask one more question. Following off of last week's episode, Bryce, you asked another good question. Mike, do you think Joey Votto is a Hall of Famer? Not unanimous or first ballot. Do you just think he's a Hall of Famer? He's having a good season right now with the Reds. I think he's got 40. Does he have 40 home runs?
He's got 40?
I don't know.
He's got a lot. I don't know if it's 40, but he's definitely
got like over 30, but I don't know if he's got 40.
Yeah. I'll check.
That's an interesting one. That's a really interesting one. I would have to have his like statistics all laid out in front of me. I know he hasn't won a World Series, so that would definitely hurt him.
He's low on hits, which is big. He's only got a little bit over 2,000 hits, which is big.
He's got 33 runs, so he's right there. He's got 33. That's crazy.
I would say I would vote him in, but I can see why people wouldn't, which makes it a little cloudier as to whether he gets in or not. I'm giving him the vote in. I think he should get in. I'd want to look at his statistics one more time before I actually give him that stamp of approval. But just off the eye test, yeah, he's in my book, but definitely not. Certainly will not be a unanimous Hall of Famer. That's for sure.
It's going to take him like 8 to 10 years to get in for sure. If he does get in, I also agree.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, Bryce. I said it's going to take him a little bit, definitely.
I agree, because I think he's got a lot of things going for him. Like I think he's only ever going to play with the Reds. I think he's got another 2 solid years of baseball, like before he has those Ryan Howard days where he's on the team and he just is terrible. But I think he's only going to play for the Reds. I think another big thing for him is he's from Canada. He's one of like the only baseball players. I think if he made the Hall of Fame, he'd be the only person from Canada that got in. That's obviously going to be a big factor. But like I said, the Baseball Hall of Fame is the hardest Hall of Fame to get into. They don't let the regular guys in. So I want to see him get in because I'm a fan of him. I think he's had a great career. If he can get to 2,300 hits, I think you got to put him in.
No, yeah, definitely one of the best players. One of the best players that the Reds franchise has seen. It's a good question. I'm looking forward to seeing how the rest of his career turns out. And listen, Mike, thanks for coming on. Bryce, as always, good job. And Mike, you're always welcome here on Broad Street. So just reach out to us. It was fun.
We're getting him back on. We're getting him back on.
Oh yeah, I might have to be a recurring guest there.
Oh, absolutely.
100%. Yeah, guys, great episode tonight. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the Brothers of Broad Street podcast, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. You can find us on Instagram or Twitter. And great show, guys. All right, that's it for tonight.
Go Birds.
Good stuff. Chop, baby. Keep chopping.